Becoming porn free, 12 steps to create a porn free life in just 12 weeks. So, did you guys, few of you have been in the program for a while. You understand the language that we use here is very intentional. So, it's not about a quitting of a behavior, it's about creating a life where that behavior is no longer wanted, need, or desired. So, my goal here tonight is to dive deep into this and have every single one of you walk away here tonight with a plan of action, knowing exactly what you need to do for the next 12 weeks to come out on the other side of the 2.0 version of yourself. And that 2.0 version of yourself is the man that is free of porn. So jumping right in, guys. This is math class. You're going to learn the three most common mistakes that men make that keep them addicted to porn. This is after 1,100 successful clients, thousands of conversations over the last 5 years, podcast interviews, speaking on stages. I've identified that there's three things, in my opinion, that keep most men stuck in what many would call the relapse recovery cycle. So we're going to pack all those here tonight. We're going to talk about why the old school methods of recovery don't work for creating freedom from porn. Okay. Once again, the language at which I speak it is very intentional. We're talking about creating freedom. The old school methods do not work. I'm going to walk you guys through this simple 12-step process to creating lasting freedom from pornography in your life forever. Basically, this whole thing is covering and quit porn, reboot your life, and become the man that each and every single one of you was born to be. Okay. You guys all know me, hopefully, for maybe you don't, maybe just, found this on the internet somewhere, but who is Coach Franklin? So I'm a transformational behavioral change expert. I spent 15 years in the health, fitness, and recovery coaching space. Been doing this work specifically for 5 years in addiction recovery. Prior to that, I had a career as a health and fitness coach, ran an online fitness company, Frank Rich Fitness. Worked in gyms, worked as a bodybuilding coach, worked as a personal trainer. So my whole life has kind of been built around this lifestyle transformation. Founded Rebuilt Recovery. I host the Superman Life podcast. If you guys haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, check it out. One of the top 100 podcasts in the US. And in December of last year, so just under 12 months ago, we launched the Rebuilt Man podcast, which was amazing because in 4 months, we were able to take that podcast and surpass the monthly reach and download that we do with my main podcast, which I've been doing for 5 years. So that's who I am. None of that really matters, though. It's why you should listen to me, right? So we have roughly 60K followers across all the social media, and we reach somewhere around 100,000 people per month. So there's a lot of people in the world that listen to what I say, and that's why you guys are here tonight. I've interviewed at this point over 250 of the world's leading experts on these topics. These topics being life transformation, identity, neuroscience, plasticity, addiction, recovery, entrepreneurship, business, health, fitness. Okay. Some of the best in the world. We've had at this point now over 6,000 men join us in our Books, Forces Coaching and Program. And as I said, that number's been updated here. More recently, it's over 1,000 successful transformations in helping men create what we call a porn-free life. All right. That's who I am today. Many of you, though, I was exactly where you are today. Okay. This was me for 20 plus years. I got introduced to pornography at the young age of 6 years old. I struggled deeply with an addiction to porn and masturbation for well over 2 decades. I found my faith. I surrendered my life to Christ in October 2018, which began this radical transformation, this journey that I've been on ever since. I'm so blessed to be able to sit here with you guys tonight, but it all started back there in 2018. I was truly set free from my addiction a few months after that. February 14th. So recall it like it was yesterday, guys. And many of you have heard this story before. We're going on, at this point, coming up in 6 years in next February. And what I say, man, is I'm literally changing the world one addicted man at a time, because I know what happens to a guy's life when he gets porn out of it. Not just because I've lived it myself, but because I've seen so many men's relationships, their marriages, their careers, their health, their fitness, their identity, their mindset. Everything changes. Everything is better without porn. And that's what I'm committed to doing, is helping each and every single one of you here tonight become the next porn-free man. All right. So after thousands of conversations, guys, with men all across the world that are struggling, I've been able to identify these three biggest mistakes that men make that I believe keep more than stuck in the cycle than anything else. And we're going to pack all those here tonight. Number one is what I call your frame of reference. And what I mean when I talk about the frame of reference is how we look at the problem and how we look at our approach to the solution of the problem. Okay. I very rarely use the word quit porn. Okay. I don't think anything we're doing here is about quitting a behavior. You have to be able to transcend it. Transcend it is begin to live above it. Okay? It's a different frame of reference. It's a different way we look at the problem. It's a different way we see the solution. Okay? One thing I've become very well known for is the saying that the only way to overcome this addiction for good is to become the man that is no longer addicted to porn. Okay. And in that word become is the identity transformation. You guys see our rebuilt recovery logo at the bottom of the screen here, right? It's a phoenix that becomes a lion. And it's very symbolic and it's very intentional in how we design that because a phoenix symbolizes death and resurrection. So every single one of you right now that's struggling with pornography, there's a part of you that wants that in your life. You could say to yourself that I don't want it, but you wouldn't go back to it if you didn't want it. Okay. So we have to be able to identify what that part is, metaphorically, symbolically, rip it out of us, allow that part to die, and create the 2.0 version of ourselves. So that's what I say when I say we must become the man that's no longer addicted to porn. It's a different way of thinking, which produces different behaviors, which produces different habits. And because we live different habits, we create a different reality for ourselves. Okay. All recovery, in my opinion, requires the creation of a new identity. And your frame of reference here must be, I cannot do this alone. Okay. Porn is an intimacy disorder at its root, and we must be able to expand our capacity for intimacy. We must be able to expand our capacity for relationship for others, which is why I created a school community, which is why we do all the things in the way that we do. We're trying to bring as many men together because I do not believe that this is a struggle that a man can get free of on his own. So the first mistake is how men see the problem, how they look at the solution, or what I call a frame of reference. Mistake number two is using what I would call incomplete systems for recovery. Okay, many of you have probably used accountability apps. You've probably tried to block your way to freedom. You've probably put internet filters on your phone. Maybe you've decided I'm going to stop using a smartphone and I'm going to use a flip phone. Maybe you've decided I'm going to delete social media. These are all tactics and tools within a full recovery system, but you can't block your way to freedom. Okay, human nature, in my belief, tells us that if there's something in the world that we want, but we tell ourselves we can't have it, our desire to want that thing tremendously grows. If you have children, you would understand this because you've been in the grocery store with your kids before, and they point at something on the shelf and they say, "I want that, Daddy." And you say, "No, you can't have that today." You turn your back, and before you know it, it's thrown into the cart because humans have the ability to go get the things that we don't want or the things that we cannot have. Let's talk about Genesis, right? Genesis 2, God created Adam and Eve, and he gave them everything in the garden. Everything that you see here can be yours except for that one tree. The minute God left, where did they go? They went to that tree. Okay. So I think it's innate within human nature that when there's something that we say we can't have, we desire it more. So it's incomplete. You cannot block your way to freedom. Okay. Reading the Bible, pray hard. You've probably heard that before, right? It's only a piece of the puzzle, right? If that was the only thing that we needed to do to be free of pornography, 57% of pastors wouldn't struggle with the addiction. If all we needed to do was read the Bible more and pray hard, 64% of youth pastors wouldn't struggle with this addiction. But I believe we need to read the Bible. Yes, we need to be in God's word every single day. Do I need to believe we need to pray? Yes, we need to be strengthening our relationship on a day-to-day basis with God, which is done through our prayer, but it's incomplete. It's lacking some parts that we're going to cover here tonight. Freedom, in my opinion, requires a fully integrated, holistic approach that is built and on and rooted in growth-centric principles. So mistake number two that men make is using these incomplete systems for recovery. Okay. Number three, biggest mistake number three is men don't honor their word and they don't tell the truth. Okay. Real quickly, if you hit snooze this morning, drop a 1 in the chat. And for some reason, I lost the chat, so I can't see it right now, but hopefully there's not a live. Actually, let me pull it up because I do want to see it.
Are we allowed to talk or no?
Yeah, you can talk if you want. Yeah, 1. Okay.
I just want to say that God woke me up today on time. I actually forgot to set my alarm, but he
Good,
woke me up
good.
on time.
Okay, okay. What I mean here, when we don't honor our word, we don't tell the truth. I think when we begin the day by hitting snooze, it's negotiating with our word. You know, some people think that that it's not that big of a deal. I'm sitting next to 15 minutes. But when we negotiate with the thing that we said we're going to do first thing in the morning, then at the end of a long workday, negotiating with ourselves of going to the gym becomes a whole lot easier to do. Then, because we didn't go to the gym, negotiating on what we're going to eat for dinner becomes a whole lot easier to do. Then because we've negotiated 3, 4, 5 times throughout the day, when the wife goes to bed, when it's late at night, when it's stressed, and we're alone, and we're lying in bed scrolling social media, negotiating with ourselves about not looking at porn, even though we said we weren't going to do it, because it's a whole lot easier to do. But how you do one thing is how you do everything. So when you truly walk out in integrity, you truly do all the little things that you say you're going to do, not looking at porn becomes a whole lot easier. So mistake number 3 here is just not living in integrity with our word. Okay. So those were the mistakes, right? Frame of reference, incomplete systems of recovery, and not honoring our word and telling the truth. Okay. But why don't these old systems of recovery work? Like what is it that they're lacking? Right. Many of you are probably aware of the 12 steps. It's just a snapshot of the 12 step, which is same steps in AA, also in SAA, Sex Addicts Anonymous. So just a quick snapshot. I'm going to walk through each one of these and why I think they're broken. But step 1 says we admitted to ourselves that we are powerless over the addiction and that our lives have become unmanageable. I just got off a coaching call right before I was with you guys, and we went deep tonight in personal responsibility and victim mindset. Okay. When we begin to be a victim in our lives, which saying we are powerless to an addiction is taking the victim approach to that thing. We're powerless. That means that thing is stronger than us. Okay. A victim is the guy that say the urge is too strong. A victim is a guy that says, I acted out because I was triggered. Okay. The man that lives by personal responsibility says, I acted out with porn because I chose to. Every relapse we make, every time we look at pornography, is a choice. Okay. So I believe step number 1 in the 12 steps is setting us down a victim mentality. It's not allowing us to live out in true personal responsibility. Okay. Number 2 is we come to believe that a power greater than us can restore us to sanity. I believe there's some partial truth in this one. Okay. I do believe as a Christian that we are saved by the blood of Christ alone, but we must pursue God and Jesus every single day. Okay. So can that power restore us to sanity if we're pursuing him? We all know a lot of crazy people though that attend church every single week. Okay. So it's not just having that power in our life. It's actually living in alignment with the man that God has called us to be. So it's removing our part. Faith without works is dead. This is our part, role that we must play in real freedom. Okay, step number 3 is we've made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand him. Okay. Once again, this must be followed by our daily action. I could say today that God is in control of my life, but I got to wake up tomorrow and do the things that I know need to get done. God's not doing them for me. God's not going to fix my fence. God's not on this call here tonight. I have the free will to make these choices and decisions. I want to follow God. I want to listen to God in the choices that I make, but it's my life. It's my responsibility. Okay. Once again, this is putting us in a victim state, in a victim mentality. Once again, we're talking about all the reasons why these old systems don't work. Okay. Step number 4 is we've made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And number 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Okay. If executed properly, in my opinion, these steps are the first 2 in the beginning of a real journey to freedom. Okay. If executed properly. Okay. But the thing is, oftentimes men don't honor their words. Okay. So they may not do a full inventory. They may not truly admit everything to themselves, or they may not truly admit everything to another person. It takes us back that we cannot do this journey alone. So these can be good if executed properly. And when we get into the new 12 step, we'll talk about how to actually execute on these things. Okay. Step number 6 and number 7. Okay. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of our character. We humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. These things can be combined into one step. Like there's no reason to break these things down. And I don't know if when they were designing this, they needed 12, so that's why they broke it up in the way that they did. In my opinion, you just combine these into one step. It's kind of the same thing. All right. Number 8, number 9. Okay. We made a list of all persons that we harmed and became willing to make amends with them. We made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when it would do harm or injure them or others. Okay. Once again, these could probably be combined into one thing, but in my opinion, they're out of order. Because at this point in the journey, all we've done is we've admitted our problems, but we haven't done any real work. We haven't actually begun to change our identity. Going to your wife that you've been lying to about pornography for the last 10 years and saying, hey, babe, I'm sorry. I hope you forgive me, without showing that you're working on it, without showing that you're having some success, without showing that you're becoming a new man. Some women may forgive you, but I just think it's going to piss them off and make them even angry, right? So I think we have to take action first before we make the amends. There's a few of you that are actually in the program, and you know that we have this assignment in the second month of our program because we have to begin to take work first. We have to begin to take action first before we just open up and begin to make amends with people. Okay, step number 10 is we continue to take personal inventory when we were wrong and promptly admitted it. Okay. Once again, at this point, we haven't done any real development work on ourselves. So, what is this inventory address? Okay, the biggest problem I see in most accountability-based recovery systems, you mentioned 12 steps. Some of you probably been in small groups, some of you maybe been in other support groups out there. It's just a bunch of grown men constantly sharing where they messed up. There's no real accountability. There's no changing of behavior. There's no working through these issues. They're saying, hey, man, I slipped up again. It's okay, buddy. Try harder next week, right? You guys have probably been in these conversations before. There's no action. There's no responsibility. Your life will change by the change that you make in your life. Recovery is based on personal growth and self-development. Step number 11 to step number 12 is sought through prayer and meditation to improve your conscious contact with God as we understand Him to be, praying for knowledge and His will for us and the power to carry that out. Once again, we want God's direction for our life, but we have to take the actions every single day. We've had a spiritual awakening as a result of the step 12. We've carried this message out. Okay, that spiritual awakening is that metaphorical death of the old self and the creation of the new you. Dr. Jordan Peterson has been one of the biggest influences on my life. Many of you maybe read his book, 12 Steps. But prior to being one of the biggest intellectual speakers and authors in the world, he was an expert in addiction. In his words, all recovery requires a spiritual transformation. We must die to our old self. We must see ourselves through a different identity. So those are the 12 steps, guys. And I'm not here to get on the organization. I think AA and 12 steps and SAA has probably done more good to this point in the world than any other recovery program. Millions of people's lives have been transformed. But let's be honest, the system, the science, the protocols are well over 100 years old. What we understand about neuroscience, what we understand about identity transformation, what we understand about neuroplasticity, what we understand about personal growth, wildly different than 100 years ago, right? So I think that there's missing some core components that can only be brought into today's world using today's science. All right. So the new way to create freedom. All right. So those are the old 12 steps, the incomplete ones, the ones that do not work. We're going to dive into the 12 steps to quitting porn, rebooting your life, becoming the man that you were created to be. Now, our 12 steps are broken into three phases. All right. Phase one being awareness, phase two being action, phase three being payment. So we'll break each one of these down. I'm going to go through all 12 steps, how you guys can implement this into your life, and then we'll get into Q&As with everybody here tonight. But the 12 steps, phase one is awareness. Okay, I talked about it with steps, I think it was 4 and 5 as really being the first step in our progress. Is we must admit there is a problem and commit to change. Okay, and when you admit the problem, radical honesty, right? It's not that, yeah, I think porn is kind of a big deal. It's like, no, this thing is actually destroying my life. It's the root of all of my problems. The language and precision at which we speak our language to is so crucial here. So crucial. What we must understand when it comes to the commitment to change. In order for something to change in your life, something has to change. Okay. I talked about on a podcast recently the formula for recovery. It's not you guys minus porn. So every single one of you on this call tonight has a current version of you. Your freedom is not that same person without pornography. You must change. You must become this new person. And it starts with committing to that change here in step one. Step two is we must identify all the ways in which porn has negatively impacted us and identify where we're triggered, weak, and vulnerable. Okay. How has porn impacted the 5 key areas of your life? How is it impacting your relationship with God? How is it impacting your fitness, your physical fitness, your mental fitness, your emotional fitness? How is it impacting your finances? Think of all the time spent wasted. Think of the creative energy wasted. Think of the loss of focus, the loss of clarity. How is it really impacting these areas? Get honest with yourself, guys. Remember, radical honesty. How's it impacting your family, your relationships, your relationship with your wife, your relationship with your kids? And how's it impacting your freedom? Your freedom, not just because you're a slave, pornography, but your freedom being the things that you enjoy in life, the hobbies, the interests, the creative endeavors, the creative pursuits. Okay. If we're going to create a life without porn, we have to know the impact that porn has had on our current life. So step two, identify all the ways in which porn is negatively impacting you. Step three, write out a plan for your new life without porn. Who could you become in the next 3 to 5 years if you were able to get this behavior out of your life? What goals, dreams, and aspirations could you achieve? Do you want to achieve without it? What relationships could you develop? Or how could your current relationships improve? And here's the key with this piece, guys, right? Because everything we're talking about here tonight is about you becoming this new individual. This is not you guys just writing out a sheet of goals that you want to accomplish. It starts there, but then it's asking the question, who do I have to become in order to accomplish this? Okay. When I wrote this plan out in 2018, I said I wanted to reach 1 million+ people with spoken word. Our podcast and our YouTube channel just hit over 2 million this past week. It's been accomplished. I put that I wanted to donate a certain amount of our income to nonprofit charities. Okay. 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity for the fourth year in a row to attend a gala that raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for anti-human trafficking here in the state of Florida. Okay. Many of the things that I wanted to do back then, I wasn't a man that could do those things. And I wasn't living in integrity with myself. I wasn't being who God called me to be. By getting porn out of my life and then taking very aggressive action every single day, I created a life of my dreams in a short period of time, in less than 5 years. So write out a plan for your life, but more importantly, identify who you have to become in order to make that life a reality. Okay. Step number four is recruiting the help, support, and accountability that you're going to need in this journey. I talked about it in mistake number one. Okay. You will not overcome this alone. Your addiction is an intimacy disorder. I love that you guys are all here tonight. Many of you have your cameras on. You're willing to put your face out there and allow other men to see with you. Inside of our programs, we do weekly group coaching calls where we connect guys all across the country, all across the globe sometimes. Because having support, having men that understand you, having men that are on the same journey as you is so important. Okay. And you guys know, man, your addiction feeds itself in isolation. Why did addiction go up 80% in 2020? Why did mental health, why did depression, why did suicide shoot through the roof while we were all locked down in quarantine? All of these things breed and feed themselves out of isolation. You got to get out of our own head. We're going to talk with other people to find the help, support, accountability that you need. The opposite of addiction is not going to be sobriety, but it's going to be the connection in the community that you build in your journey to freedom. One of the things I love most with the guys that I get to work with is how they talk about their ability to be present with others. Porn sucks the life out of you. It makes you numb. It makes you a zombie. You cannot be connected and present with people when you're struggling with porn. So it holds you back. So we have to get the help and support that we need. Okay. So that was all phase one. Okay. Those first 4 steps were all about raising the awareness. Now we're moving into phase two. We're going to start to take some real aggressive action. All right. Step 5 is to begin to practice daily and or weekly fasting. All right. And what we call for and recommend in our program is you start with a 48-hour fast. You can go up to 3 days if you want, and then begin to implement a weekly 24-hour fasting on a weekly basis. And if you want to take it even a step further, begin to practice daily fasting. Okay. One part of your struggle with pornography is due to a lack of self-control. Okay. You have the inability to control yourself when you're triggered. Okay. Beginning to learn how to control yourself in the kitchen and what you put in your mouth doesn't make pornography go away, but it builds your character and it builds your skill set of self-control. Self-control, in my belief, is nothing more than a skill set. Like children don't have self-control. They develop it through proper parenting, through proper discipline, and then they become disciplined and they become self-controlled adults later on in life. But if you never see a kid that never had that foundation set up in his life, he's the one that lives a chaotic life. Self-control has got to be looked at as a skill that we can develop, and fasting is a great way to do that. Okay, it also teaches us to learn how to say no. Okay, going 2 days, going 3 days without food, man, you're gonna want the stuff, man. You're gonna be hungry. You're gonna trigger. But being able to pause in that moment and say no is another skill set that must be learned. Okay. Now, fasting brings you closer to God. It changes your energetic state. It puts you in a state of ketosis, more focus, more clarity, all great benefits. But a big reason why is you just have to build some self control in our life. It's also going to do an incredible job if you're unhealthy and healing your gut. Okay, I'm not going to dive a lot into it tonight, but the role our gut plays in this recovery is so crucially important. All right. Number 6 is daily prayer, meditation, and gratitude. All right, these are three core components of our program. Okay. But another reason why we all struggle with porn to a certain degree is we have the inability to calm and regulate our nervous system. Okay. I got deep into this with Connor Beaton from Man Talks on a podcast episode on how porn becomes a way that we de-stress, which in essence is a way that we deregulate our nervous system. Okay. You're never watching porn when you're just chilling, like when you're just when you're in bliss, when you are just at a state of just utter calm and relaxation. You go to porn when you're stressed. You go to porn when you're worried about the finances. You go to work when you're overwhelmed at work. You go to work and or you go to porn when you've been rejected by your wife. All stressful states, which change our nervous system. So we use porn as a way to deregulate that. Okay. Prayer, meditation, and gratitude are all tools that we can build, though, that we can be proactive in learning to control our nervous system. I believe morning gratitude shifts our perspective and it changes the lens that we see the world through. Okay. Many guys that are struggling see the world or see the glass as half empty, right? It's this daunting view. It's this gray view of the future, right? I'm never going to be able to get out of this. The glass half full, though, says, you know what, there's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to be able to overcome this. And I think gratitude is a great way to shift how we see the entire world. Prayer and meditation is about controlling your thoughts and finding peace in stressful times. So we have to begin to practice these things on a daily basis. Number 7 is living out acts of service. Another big part of our program is service, the service-oriented life. The use of pornography, in my opinion, gentlemen, and I'm not calling on anybody, that was me for 20 years, is one of the most selfish behaviors a man can do. Let's unpack that for a minute here, right? We're stressed, we're triggered, we're angry, we're tired, we're anxious. We want to feel a certain way. So we consume other people, we exploit other human beings to make ourselves feel better. All right? Selfish by its core. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. So how many of you are then going out into the world thinking about what's in it for me? Okay. If I had this conversation, what's in it for me? If I go to work, what's in it for me? What if we shifted that and said every conversation, what can I do for you? When I show up to work, what can I do for you? When you see somebody in need, what can I do for you? How would that change the way that you saw even the use of pornography? Okay. So we have to begin to live out a life of service. Number 8 here is sharing your story. All right. One of the best parts of the 12-step program is how they structure their groups, and it's all about people helping people. Once you succeed, you become a sponsor. Once you succeed, you become a mentor. Okay. And it creates this environment of real accountability, of real support. Let's be honest, guys. If the things that are happening in your life that you know you're struggling with, but you're not talking about these things hold power over you. It creates a state of guilt. It creates a state of shame, in my opinion. And we can never truly step into real freedom. We can never truly step into the life that God has called us to live if we're walking in shame. And it starts with being able to open up and share about this. Okay. It's going to help remove that layer of shame that we're carrying. Okay. So that was phase 2. That was taking action. Now we're going to get into phase 3, which is attainment, which once we're building this free life, how do we continue to live this out forever? Because this isn't about just not watching porn for a month. It's not just about not watching porn for 6 weeks. It's not about just watching porn for just 6 months. It's about creating a lasting life of freedom for each and every single one of us. Okay. Number 9 is beginning to do hard things and seek adversity on a day-to-day basis. Okay. Do the things that you don't want to do. Okay. There's literally an area in your brain called the inferior cingulate cortex. Okay. It's a part of your prefrontal cortex that when you do hard things that you don't want to do, this area grows and expands. Now, what is this area associated to? Our will, our willpower, our ability to do even harder things. So Ryan's on the call here tonight. Ryan's in our coaching and mentorship program. He's been getting into cold showers. He's been getting into cold plunges. We have cold showers in the program, but he decided he want to take it the next step. I've done the cold plunge every single day for 19 months now. It's changed my life. But every single morning, even though I've done it that long, every single morning I stand there contemplating with myself, this is the morning I don't want to do. But I do it anyways because I know that, yes, it's changing my physiology. It's releasing dopamine. But it's more about me conditioning myself that when things are in front of me that I don't want to do, I am the man that despite how I feel about that thing, I'm going to push through it. Then if I ever get triggered, then if I'm ever feeling tempted or urgent, I can sit in that because I'm not afraid to do hard things. I don't need to run and escape and numb myself with pornography. Okay. We talk about becoming the 2.0 version of yourself, which means that there's a version of you that has more potential than the version of you that's living out right now. Well, the only way to unlock and reach that new potential is by doing things you've never done before. Then begin to build the reputation with yourself, and you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. And then anything will include living a life of freedom. So number 9, start doing hard things and seek adversity on a day-to-day basis. Number 10, learn new skills. Relentlessly pursue your new goals. Remember that vision that we wrote down in step 3? Okay. Hopefully there's some things that you are not yet doing. You need to learn them. Now, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change through experience, through new experience. Okay. We're constantly doing the same things. There's no reason for our brain to adapt and create new neural pathways. Okay. You guys can all drive probably to work without having to pay attention. You can probably drive, hold a conversation, scroll social media, not even look at the road, but still make it there. It's so ingrained into you. There's no challenge in doing that. But what if you had to take a different path every single day? Like you'd have to be more in tune in that. And what that's going to do is that's literally going to turn your brain on in a way that normal driving doesn't. Neuroplasticity is brain's ability to change through new experience. Now, dopamine is the interesting one here, right? Because everybody associates dopamine with pornography, dopamine with pleasure, right? I eat junk food, dopamine. I watch porn, dopamine. I drink alcohol, dopamine. I do drugs, dopamine. A lot of people understand it as a pleasure chemical. It's an even stronger chemical of reward. Okay. So when we have a vision for our life and we take that vision and create goals, then we take small daily steps towards those goals, our brain releases dopamine, which makes us want to even take that next step. So by having an aim at what we're becoming and then working towards that, we begin to actually produce healthy neurochemicals. Okay. Positive emotion can only be derived by progress towards meaningful goals. Okay, so number 10, learn new skills, relentlessly pursue new goals on a weekly, daily basis. Number 11 here. So it's part of the 3 mistakes, right? Keep the promises that you make yourself. Integrity. How you do everything, or how you do one thing is how you do everything. Are you the person, gentlemen, that can trust yourself when you say something, you'll get done? Or do you have the reputation that, yeah, I say I'm going to want to do that, but I don't follow through and execute upon it? If you did everything you said you were going to do, you wouldn't watch porn when you said you weren't going to watch it. You did everything you said you weren't going to do. You wouldn't watch porn when you said you weren't going to. Okay. So we have to begin to live this out. And it starts with the snooze. It starts with the promises to go to the gym. It starts with how we eat. It starts with, are we executing our daily 5? Are we journaling? Are we reading? Are we praying for the people that we say we're going to pray for? All these little things, when we don't follow through, our subconscious is keeping a track record. Yeah, Arnold, man, you said you're going to do that thing, but you didn't do it. Okay, that's a -1 there. Then in time, when you're stressed, your subconscious takes over, and it's like, yeah, dude, Arnold's not that guy, man. Let's go ahead and self-sabotage. Right? We've all seen that play out in our life before. And I'm not picking on Arnold, trying to use everybody's name here tonight. So step 11, guys, keep promises you make yourself. Step number 12, talked about it already before. Become a mentor support to someone else. There's a powerful story about Bill W., the founder of AA. Well over 100 years ago, Bill was a traveling salesman. He struggled. He was drunk, traveled a lot, stayed in a hotel, and for the longest time, every time he got to his new hotel, the first thing he did is he would find the closest local bar, and that was his pattern. Okay, but he was having a hard time breaking that pattern. But what he realized is that if he could shift the reason from going to the bar of him getting drunk versus going there to help another drunk, he could find freedom in his life. He still did the same thing. He still went to the bar, but instead of getting a drink, he found a drunk that he could help. And that became the beginning of 12 steps. And now their entire organization is built upon this mentorship pyramid. Okay. It really takes a level of accountability in life when you are walking towards freedom, when you know somebody else is looking at you for their help. But the important part here is you cannot pass on to others that which you have not experienced yourself. I couldn't sit here tonight, being somebody that struggled with porn, and true authentically deliver this presentation to you guys. It wouldn't resonate. You guys would feel the energy. You guys would know that it is true, it is real. But because I've walked this out for 5 years, because I've taken over 1,000 guys down this journey, I can pass this on to you because I know what the journey is about. But for each and every single one of you to attain this, to maintain this for the rest of your life, you have to find a way that you can support and help other people. Maybe it's not in the space of recovery. Maybe it's in athletes. Maybe it's in sports. Maybe it's in finance. Maybe you're a wizard with Excel spreadsheets and you know how to help people build budget. So you start helping and mentoring, supporting people in that area. I'm not telling each and every single one of you you need to become Coach Frank Rich. You need to create your own rebuild recovery. But you got to find that life of service, right, in helping other people move forward in their life. And you only need to be one or two steps ahead of the person that you're trying to help. It doesn't matter where you are. All that matters is you're a step or two ahead of them. So those are the 12 steps, guys. I'm going to run through all those again. Phase one is awareness. We must admit that there is a problem and commit to change. We must identify all the ways in which it's negatively impacting us and identify where we're triggered, weak, and vulnerable. We must write out a plan for our new life without porn, and we must recruit the help and support accountability we need. Then we can move into phase two, begin to practice daily and weekly fasting. We need to have a daily prayer practice, a daily meditation practice, a daily gratitude practice. We need to perform acts of service on a weekly, monthly, daily basis, whatever that looks like for each and every one of you. We must begin to share our story and be open to talking about our struggles. Then we can move into phase three and begin to tame this and maintain this thing forever. Like doing hard things and seeking adversity, right? Learning new skills by relentlessly pursuing new goals, like keeping the promises that we make to ourselves, by becoming a mentor, a support system, a coach, somebody else. Those are the 12 steps, guys. Recapping it here real quick. So I've given you the framework, right? I've given you the steps here. But the question is, what do each and every single one of you do here from this point? All right. Most of you have heard this before. Okay. You've listened to the podcast. I've talked about these 12 steps before. Uh, we've sprinkled it through everything that we've done. This is the foundation, which everything I talk about in Rebuilt Recovery comes out of this framework. So most of you already know this. All right. But what we know to be true is only 20% of your transformation comes from the information. The other 80% comes from the implementation. And that's where most people have problems. And that's where most people struggle is actually implementing the things they want to do. Most people know how to lose weight. You got to eat less food. You got to move more, right? Yet you look at the population, 60% of people are obese. Maybe even some of you here tonight, like, aren't at the weight, aren't at the ideal physique that you want, but you know how to get there, but you struggle with the implementation. Okay. Because 80% of our success is the implementation of the information that we already know. Right. So you guys sitting here right now all have a choice to make. Okay, this is you. You're at the crossroads right now. You can go left, you can keep trying on your own, you sit stuck in this addiction, you can less that you can be. Or you could take the turn to the right here, the turn that over 1,100 guys have taken at this point. You can take back control. You create real freedom in your life, and you can live the life that you all were designed and born to live. Okay. Now, there's been a lot of guys that were just like you. We had Clay here. All right. Clay was a young father of two. I remember he's the one on the left here, standing there with his wife and kids. I remember in his exit interview, he shared with me that during the 12-week program, he felt like he had sex for the first time with his wife. Now, there's a gentleman that's standing there with his wife and two kids. You can't see one because he's hid behind the testimonial. He fathered two kids, but told me that he felt like he had sex with his wife for the first time because for every point up to that, for their entire relationship, he was playing a fantasy in his head while he was sleeping with his wife. It radically changed his life. This gentleman here in the middle with the blurred out face, he was a pastor, so he asked me to block his identity, believe. He got in the best shape of his life. He lost over 20 pounds over the course of 120 days. Thiago here to the right, med school student, married, a beautiful bride, uh, right at the end of it. They actually streamed on the internet. I was able to watch it, and then they ended up coming down. One of my favorite guys that I've ever had an opportunity to work with, which I love him to death. They were just like you, though, but they made the right choice. We have a lot more. We have Drew, we have Shadera, we have Eric. All were just like you, but they made the right choice. They went right instead of going left. Okay, many more engagements, biggest business months ever. Amazing work, amazing work. Guys, I could go on and on and on. I'm not gonna bore you guys with thousands of testimonials here tonight, but these men were all just like you. They were sitting there at that crossroad. They could have gone left. They choose to go right. Okay. But they all had two things in common. Okay. Number one is they were sick and tired of their current situation. They were fed up. They were at the crossroads. They were at the point that I was in 2018 when I said, I'm sick and tired of this. In 2019, when I ripped a computer apart, said, I'm so done with this that I'm destroying the thing that is bringing porn into my life. And tore it apart, ripped it into two pieces. Okay, so they were sick and tired, but more importantly, they were committed to change and willing to do whatever it took to be free. Now, I want each and every single one of you to ask yourself those two questions. Are you sick and tired right now of your current situation? Are you fed up? Are you disgusted with the lack of being the man that you know you could be? And are you committed to change and willing to do whatever it takes to be free? Okay. Answer those questions right now, guys.